Hey everyone, it's Ish here in Oklahoma City, and great news, my seeds have began to germinate, and so I'm just super excited about that. So I'm going to take you all on a tour of my garden again and just show you all what's been growing in my garden. So first, you all remember the long bed with potting soil on top, and I've noticed now a little bit of germination. We've had beautiful weather here in Oklahoma the last couple of days. You can see here this row that runs right along here is starting to send up little green shoots everywhere. The weather's been beautiful. It's been 80 degrees during most days, and the nights are only getting down to about 50 degrees, and so the plants are just absolutely loving it, and so am I. So that's the bed. You remember on the far side of the bed I had one pitiful little radish growing. It's doing very well, and opposite of it, finally clearing their way up to the top, we have a couple more coming in on this side of the bed. So I guess even though we planted radishes just a little bit too deep on this side of the bed, they're still, oh man, I didn't even notice these. They're still coming up. I think that would be lettuce or maybe some Swiss chard. You can see, I guess the soaker hose has cleared some area for them, and they're really coming in underneath the soaker hose. I'll just give them a little more room. Maybe I'll get some whatever those are. I'll have to check my guide and see what I planted there. But I guess even if you plant things too deeply, if you make a mistake, don't just completely give up on it and stop watering, because they might come back. So now you remember the bed that has the peas, and it's doing really well. They're really loving this weather, and they're starting to take off, just sprouting more and more leaves every single day, getting big. Still no sign of spinach yet. No spinach coming up, but it's only been 4 or 5 days. We'll give it more time. Then since the last video, the kohlrabi has just gotten huge. You can see all 3 rows here, and soon I'm going to have to actually come through and thin them out, because it's getting just too big, too close together for kohlrabi. It's only supposed to be one every about 4 to 6 inches or so. And then over here you can see some carrots starting to come in as well. And so this is what's been growing over the last couple of days. Hopefully, throughout the rest of the country, you all have started to get your stuff in, and you're starting to get growing as well. If you have raised beds, you can typically put stuff in about 2 weeks earlier than what the package recommends, and that's because the package just assumes the temperature of the soil, and my soil here with the grass and stuff would be much colder than a raised bed, but because the surface area of the raised bed, and if you look at all those little slats in between the wood, the heat gets in there, and so it raises the temperature of the soil quicker and allows me to plant. A little bit about this raised bed, I'll take you in and talk about it. This raised bed was really easy to construct. I just put 4x4s into the ground and then measured off that area so that they would be all pretty much even. You can actually see that my middle ones were not. I didn't quite do a good job of that. They're not parallel. I missed it. I put one where the other one ended. But then I just used 1x8 boards. So my bed is actually about or no, they're 1x6s, so it's 18 inches tall, which is probably taller than it needs to be, but I didn't particularly want to do a lot of bending over if I was going to be planting greens and picking them regularly. And so I built it 6 inches higher. But raised beds, really easy to construct. I have no skills whatsoever when it comes to building things. My haphazard fence around here should be evidence enough of that. But even without any skill whatsoever in building things, I was able to construct a really sound raised bed. And it only took me about 6 hours to completely dig out the area, and then put the posts in the ground and then nail or actually screw them into place. So I would highly recommend doing this because then you control the soil. If you notice in this bed, there's absolutely no weeds growing in this bed because all the soil's been brought in bag by bag, and so it's free from any of the weeds that are growing down there. And those weeds then in these little tiny 4-inch raised beds manage to sneak their way in and leach. You can see here leaching off my soaker hoses and the resources of the dirt. So I highly recommend raised beds as opposed to your traditional kind of little 4-inch bed. And you can also do some other things to help cut down on the weeds getting in, because they will even come all the way up from the very bottom. So what I did was on the very bottom layer, I put cardboard down, and you can't see it because you can see a little bit of cardboard right there. I put cardboard down, and then underneath the cardboard is actually this black cloth tarp as well. So that the weeds could not get a foothold and come up underneath the bed whatsoever. And that's just a little bit of preventative care. I didn't want to spend hours upon hours on this only to have weeds eventually take over my raised garden bed. But you got to get out there, you got to get started building your raised bed. Don't let, if you don't have this much room, or if your yard, like mine, was covered in grass, don't worry about it. Kill it with the cardboard just by laying wet cardboard down. It will kill your grass, and then you can just build a raised bed on top of that area. So don't worry about it if your backyard kind of looks like this, because that doesn't matter. The grass will die, and then you could have a wonderful little area like this to start growing in. Good luck out there.